Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Blacklist. A great episode, a lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we just doing a lot better, but Mirce is not too happy about the situation in Reddington. Every time Reddington pops back into, as he says, that every time he goes to the trailer, it just gets smaller and smaller, because it's like, yeah, because Weecha wants to get back out there to work, but it's like, no, you stay here, let your sister take care of you, and she even wants to perform this, some kind of flame ceremony, because she wants to communicate with the other side to kind of get answers for things. But Reddington's like, no, we're here right now. But she just kind of wants nothing to do with that right now. She's upset because, once again, it's just like, my sister got dragged into this. And it's just, I love you and I care about you so much, but I can't continue being on this path. And Reddington wants her to stay here as long as possible. Because, at least stay long enough to make sure Reach is okay. But also, just so I can, win you back over potentially. But seems super unlikely at this point. But well, you never know how things will play out. Either way, Marvin comes to him and is like, yo, I know it, checked it out, know exactly what bank account the money was used to set all this stuff in motion. Turns out it was the Caelum Bank, which is an interesting concept of a bank. I mean, I think that's interesting, like a bank that can't be traced because it's constantly on the move. It's on an airplane, and obviously there's a lot of high-level security on the computers and stuff like that all this banking information is on, so... Reddington now knows that everything, or at least strongly believes that everything that's happened, whether it's framing Harold, whether it's going after Elizabeth, everything with Maureen as well, has all been a part of this. Because whoever it was had access to his account, which only, well, even Reddington and Marvin talk about the fact is there's a long list of people who have access, who would have access to that account. So Reddington plans on, hey, we're going to run a con, so he kind of goes with Denbei and the task force to kind of work this all out. So Reddington getting on board and them kind of getting the planes to all land, saying like, oh, it might be something terrorist related. And I love that Wrestler comes on board and he's like, wait, I know you. He's like, oh, you must have me confused. No, you're Raymond Reddington. He's like, what? No, you must have me confused. What was he? He's like, what is it? Redmond Rellington. I love that. He's like, who's this Redmond Rellington you're looking for? I love it so much. I was like, oh, look at you playing possum like that. I was like, oh, that's so good. But sadly, Harris, the guy who is the CEO of the Caelum Bank, eventually figures out, the fact is, now I'm in a position where, because it is kind of interesting that he still won't give Reddington information. It makes sense where Reddington's coming from. It's like, no, it's my account. I should be able to know just give me the name of the person who last accessed it. And he was like, I can't do that. Even if under these circumstances, if I give you that name, it shows people, hey, I can be gotten to. And he's like, right, my number one quality when it comes to this business is trust. Everyone has trust that their knowledge, their information and everything is safe with me. But that is also the complicated thing. It's like, it's my account. If I'm confronting you about someone having access to my account, I'm curious. But it's like, I get also where Harris was coming from. It's like, right, this is my business, my livelihood. If anyone finds out, which Reddington wouldn't have gone off running his mouth about it. But to be fair, Reddington, it always has like that trump card to always play. So if Harris had given him the information, Reddington could always blackmail him later on. It's like, oh, you need to give me what I want, or I'm going to tell everyone that you gave me some information you shouldn't have given me, and that's going to make everyone start doubting you. So it would have always probably been a double-edged sword telling him the truth anyway. But Reddington goes to the point of shooting Harris because it's like, oh, I'm gonna get that information regardless. He's like, yeah, you up here want to act like you're so altruistic. I know who you get your money from. Basically the money he looks after are from very bad people. It was like politicians. I think he even said like warlords and stuff like that. So don't like act like, oh, it's just innocent people. Like the trust you're earning is the trust of like very terrible human beings. So don't like get it twisted like, oh, you have like this honorable thing. It's like, no, it's just a business to you at the end of the day. You're only being honorable for the sake of your own, preservation, but also like your own business. So don't act like it's some like, oh, like I'm looking out for other people. It's like you're looking out for people because it's looking out for yourself in the long run. Reddington shot the guy, got the information, and lo and behold, what name got dropped? Hetty's. I was like, the moment Hetty's name was dropped, I was like, she's getting framed. I was like, there's no way But then I start thinking, it's like, well, there was that episode earlier in the season where Hetty was going to go to jail, and Reddington, and they were trying to get Hetty to cut a deal, but Hetty wouldn't. And the moment it finds out, like, wait, that person you sent was someone to test me, and then Hetty acted like everything was okay. At the end of the day, I was like, could Hetty be behind this? But what I didn't think about at the time is, even if that was just the one thing, because that was in this season. This whole plan against Reddington has been set 2 years and more. Once again, it could just be like, oh, Hetty was playing dumb, playing possum. I mean, what did you find Hetty doing? She was like, that screamed like, oh, I'm not the responsible person. I'm up here feeding, was it like, her birds and stuff? It's like, yeah, like Hetty's not that person. But at the same time, it's like, right, she could, just once again be playing possum herself. But I love that Reddington, like, when, because Weecha ended up picking him up after the whole Harris situation. And he's like, oh my God, me and you are going to suffer the wrath of your sister. At the very least, call Mirsay up and let her know that you're okay, because Weecha snuck out while Mirsay was getting all the supplies she needed for the flame ceremony thing she was going to do. I was like, man, your sister's going to get so mad. Call her up and tell her you're okay. But Reddington, regardless of it all, is like, right, I want you to rest because you're not in good enough condition, but I do appreciate you having my back out here in the field. So I thought, I do love that just relationship in general, like his relationship with Mirsay and Weecha. But when they went to Hetty's door, it's like, Weecha's about to kick it down. He's like, wait, this is Hetty we're talking about? I guarantee you the door's unlocked. Check the door. Voila, and ended up being open. But luckily, the FBI, because Dembe and Wrestler had, were listening in through a wire, so they were able to get home dude Harris out of there in time. Sadly, he ended up dying from his wounds. I'm going jumping around a little bit. I thought that was a front. I thought we were going to find out that Reddington kind of put that out to make it seem like home dude died, but it was like, oh no, just another casualty of. Once again, Reddington can have tunnel vision big time, especially under these circumstances, because it's understandable. He thought the whole thing with Liz was done. Townsend was already dead and killed Van Dyke, and it's like, right, there's no more to go after. Now knowing, wait, there's other people responsible for Liz's death, it's like, right, it won't bring him peace, but it'll still nag at him if he doesn't, because this is all he can do. He can't do anything else for Liz. Nothing will bring her back, but at the very least, he can quench his bloodlust going after anyone responsible for Liz. So that's why he has this tunnel vision here, because it's like, right, I failed to protect her. Now she's gone. He's just as mad as the people responsible as he's mad at himself for not protecting her. So I can understand the tunnel vision. And to be fair, Reddington's shown himself in the past to have tunnel vision. Once again, I find it ironic and interesting that Liz was always Reddington's blind spot, and even in death, she continues to kind of be your blind spot, because he's so focused on her that he's just barreling through, just kind of doing whatever he wants to do. And so, like I said, I was under the assumption like a lot of this episode was going to end up being that super duper con. Reddington didn't figure things out until near the end, but I thought like, oh my God, Reddington figured it out early. This whole thing was like, because the whole thing he was talking to Dembe about with the whole Caelum bank thing was, oh, we're going to run a con. I thought this was still part of the con, because how do you fool your enemies? By fooling your friends too. It's like, right, because I was like, he's lying to Hetty, he's tricking Hetty, because we know that Hetty is a terrible test taker. She even said so early in the season. So how do you make Hetty pass the test? You don't tell her it's a test. So you fool her, you fool the FBI. Once again, it turns out the Harris guy actually did die. And once again, Reddington didn't. This wasn't some extensive con. Reddington didn't figure things out until like that, the very, very end. But Dembe and Wrestler ended up getting to Hetty in time, which she's still like, no, I didn't do anything. You believe me, right, Dembe? And Dembe's like, I'm not the one you have to convince. It's Reddington, which I love. They had that heart-to-heart moment. He was talking about, oh yeah, what was that play? What was it? 80, 90 feet? 111 feet. And it's like, right, there was those pirates, and yeah, he was like, I was ready to go to war, but you told me to surrender, because by surrendering, there's nothing that we could lose that couldn't be replaced, or that wasn't that important, and it meant the world to them. So we're losing stuff that is not that bad for us to lose, but they win and they feel like, oh my god, it makes their day. So they ended up, not a single shot was fired. So I thought that was interesting. So I thought that was a really interesting thing that Dembe was saying. I even love Dembe being like, what does this have to do with our current situation? He's like, oh, it has nothing. It's just I wanted to keep you on the phone and distracted long enough while we caught up with you, and like hit him from the side. I was like, okay. Because I thought that whole thing was about like him trying to make some antidote to like something that he was going to say to Dembe. And it's like, no, it was just a distraction to keep you focused while they ram you from the side. So they get heady, they take off. At the same time, you have Harold and everyone. Well, turns out Alina got benched. She is going to have to work not in the field anymore. And you know, it's all right. She can't be. She even says she can't be mad at Aram. Aram handed in my assessment that I wrote myself. I included the truth to it, and I knew Aram had to do the right thing, and I told him to do as such, but it doesn't make it any easier. She's like, it's frustrating, which Harold's like, I get it. I know what a lot of frustration can do to you. I've been feeling a lot of it myself lately, but what we do here is important too. Like, we might not be in the field. It might not be as sexy, as exciting being out on the field, but good work can still get done here. I'm trying to think. There was another TV show. It was like a crime drama that was kind of like that, where it's like someone got relegated to being in an office, and it's like, oh wow, I got a better appreciation of things. I mean, I guess there's many things that have done that. I know Blind Spot's kind of done that. It's not the same thing, but it makes me think of in the final season of Leverage, while the rest of the team was in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. Parker was stuck back home, so by herself, and well, you know, so like I thought that was it just kind of reminds me of that a little bit. They ended up finding out LaCroix had a DVD that had a whole bunch of information, including some lawyers, which those lawyers are like, right, you found us out. Okay. I loved Harold's like the guy who actually killed LaCroix and his wife. I love first and foremost how Harold got him to talk. It's like, yeah, here, this is you getting transferred to Secret Service for helping us. Like, I'm not helping you. It's like, that's not what this says. So eventually what's going to happen is they're going to get you, and it's going to take a little while to process. And in that time frame, I'm going to suddenly be like, wait, you never cooperated with us. And they're going to drop you, like the Marshal Service, they're going to drop you and not give you protection. And by then, the people you work for are going to still believe that you talked, and they're going to come after you. So do you want to go to prison with triple murder under your belt? And you'll be able to have, like, you'll have a reputation. You'll go in there like, hey, the big tough guy, and you'll be able to pay off people actually protecting you, and your employers won't come after you because they'll be like, okay, you kept your mouth shut. So he ended up giving them information because that's what led to them finding, because the point was to go back to LaCroix's house and burn down the place after killing his wife, but they got to him before he could. So they ended up going through all this stuff, and they found the DVD with all the list of names. Go to the lawyers. The lawyers are like, okay, you got us. We knew at the moment you want to talk to us. We'll tell you everything, but we'll kind of cut a deal in the process. We're not the top of this. And LaCroix and Cole weren't even the top of it either. They, like, there's a hierarchy to this. There's a head honcho who came up with this entire plan. Granted, we don't know who that person is. We can literally give you every other name on the list except for the name you desperately need and want the most. So what I thought was interesting, too, is while this was all going down, once again, Alina was almost like, hey, where are you guys going? Are you going to do that? I'll go with you. It's like, no, sorry. It'd be against regulations and stuff, so you're out of the field, so you have to stay here. So what does Alina do? She goes to Reddington. I thought that was her, like, making a play or something. It's like, no, she legitimately wanted to work with Reddington because she believed that, right, I'm no use to the FBI, but with my skill set, I can actually help you. I still want to be in the mix of this, because not being out in the field, she gets a little antsy, because she's always been out in the field, so kind of being relegated to just paperwork, it sucks, and just being stuck inside of the office, it's like, no, I need to kind of get out there, I need to be active part of this. I was like, it sounds like you're kind of almost being like, yo, I'm willing to do some dirty work for you, Reddington, but he's just kind of like, right, you and your condition right now, like, you're not, it's everything I'm kind of dealing with right now, too. kind of don't have room to deal with you right now, Agent Park. So, and she walks away kind of heartbroken by it. It's like, right. I was actually surprised that she told Cooper and Aram the truth. She's like, yeah, I went to Reddington, and just like you guys, he turned me down. It's like, well, of course, because this is where you belong. Once again, it's not sexy, but the work we do here does matter as well. So, well, I appreciate her being a lot more honest, because I wasn't expecting it. I thought she was going to lie about it, because Reddington was like, right, come tomorrow. So I think though there's work opportunities still there. She didn't necessarily mention that part of it, but I think after talking to Aram and Cooper, it's like, no, she's content with like, right, this is where we do good work. We put the bad guys away. We save lives. With Reddington, you're most likely going to be taking lives. At the very least, with the FBI, you know you're going to be saving lives. Plus, you've already been down the route of, being an governmental assassin doing wet work. We've already covered that, so kind of don't want to kind of fall back into those habits and stuff. I also, skipping around, jumping back a little bit, I love that scene where Reddington and Hetty are on the plane, and he makes reference, because she's like, I promise you I didn't do it, and Reddington's heard that so many times, he's like, I don't want to hear it anymore, and he was just kind of, he said a word, and she's like, what is that? And Reddington's almost like, it basically means I can wax on and on about betrayal and blah, blah. She's like, I don't want to hear anymore. Just stop talking. So ended up knocking Hetty out and ends up confronting her. She's like, why do you think I would have, what would be my motive for going after Liz? It doesn't make any sense. And then Reddington's like, right, I've had plenty of people kind of like, that's what we're trying to discover, is like trying to find out why you did what you did. Then a guy comes in and is like, yo, Hetty, 3 years ago came looking for work. And I was like, oh, Hetty, are you up here being shady? But she's like, all right, fine. You don't appreciate me? So yes, so what's so wrong about me going out there trying to find a work where I am appreciated? Do you should I have to die for that? I was like, okay. And once again, that Marvin was there. I was like, I know it's you, bastard. And the moment they took Hetty away, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this, because Reddington, if he's gonna have someone killed, he would have done it then and there. The fact is, he had Hetty taken somewhere else, because it's like, right, I owe you this decency or something. But the fact is, you took Hetty away. I was like, like I said, I thought this was all part of the con. It was, but I thought maybe Hetty might have been in the. Well, I was like, I figured Hetty wouldn't be in the know, because she can't keep a secret, because she has a terrible poker face. But the moment they set that up, and it's like, oh yeah, take her out back and basically finish her off, and then like they eventually heard the shot, and even Marvin be like, oh, don't you want to take this out? He's like, what? Oh no, that's whatever, because now he has to deal with the aftermath of, yeah, because I made a mistake of killing Harris. Now I'm gonna have to deal with the fallout, because Marvin was like, yeah, a whole bunch of people know that the last person Harris met with was you, and now that's going to piss off a lot of his clients, who are probably some people in the criminal world that Reddington's familiar with and probably even does business with, which that's going to be a whole conversation we're going to jump to later on. But at the same time, he's like, yo, let's go somewhere, Marv. I was like, do you know it's Marv or not? But looking through a wedding video, they ended up finding, Alina found that it was the McCoy's wedding, and who was the best man or person giving the speech? None other than Marv. I legitimately hopped up from my chair at that moment. I was like, yes, I knew it was you, you bastard. Once again, nothing against the actor who plays Marv. I'm talking specifically about the character Marvin, not you. I don't want that kind of get misconstrued, but I was like, I knew it was you, you sneaky bastard. I knew it. I knew I didn't trust you anymore, Marvin. I knew I got a terrible feeling about you. Yeah. I was like, I knew it. I knew it had to be you. Oh, because it made the most sense. His motivations weren't 100% what I thought they were. His motivations when it came to Liz made a lot of sense. Like, I figured as much that his reasons for the whole Liz thing was because of that. But, because I thought, like, right, once again, Reddington's had him tortured in the past by Teddy, and he was like, oh my god, Marvin, I'm so sorry. And Marvin was kind of pissed, but then eventually Marv got over it, I guess. But now, like, because Reddington got the call from Cooper, and that just reconfirmed what he already knew. But I think at the time, he just didn't know that Marvin had a connection to the LaCroix like that. So he was almost kind of like, okay, Cooper, and hangs up, and Hetty comes out the back. I'm like, boom, you set up, son. We got you. And so he explains why he did what he did. And I think this is a beautiful, the irony behind it. That Reddington, I find it funny. Raymond Reddington was created. You created this monster to be this criminal boogeyman, this criminal mastermind, this conjurer of crime. You created this monster, and this monster gave birth to other monsters. Because Marvin's like, my entire life is Raymond Reddington. He has no life outside of that. It's like, I'm the monster that you created. He's like, I never was a big fan of Liz. That he made that super clear. He never fully trusted her, and it's like, and to find out you're gonna leave everything to her, she didn't like deserve it. She wouldn't have run it the right way. I've run like in your absence, I ran the business the right way. He's like, I thought while you were gone, I ran things the way you would, because all the CDs you left Liz teaching her how to run the business, I took over that and I ran the business. I kept things going the best as I could. He's like, I thought, you've been surrounded by death so much. You've always been steeped in that. I thought you'd eventually get over this. And that is Marvin's biggest error. Because Marvin didn't realize, he knew Liz, because he kept treating Liz like, some outsider that Raymond took an interest in. And it's like, for what, like, he never, because he doesn't know. There's only a handful of people who know the truth. The truth about why Reddington has always had his interest in Liz. There is only probably 2 people in existence that probably know that full truth. I'd assume Dembe, Mr. Kaplan, and Liz at the very end. And even Reddington talks about it. I remember that day, like what Liz was wearing, the smell of like, because it had just rained or whatever. I remember her last words, the look on her face when she saw me, and I looked in her eyes. It was like she saw me for the first time ever. And then, because in that moment, Reddington's like, at the very end, Liz found out the truth. She died knowing the truth about who I really was. But that was the thing. Marvin isn't a part of the inner circle. You've been part of the inner circle, but not the tippity top inner circle who knows the truth. And I'm curious that I don't actually know if, I'd assume Weecha and Mirsay also have to know like Reddington's truth in that regard. But it's like, right, he's like, what Marv's like, you're just taking an interest in this FBI agent. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just past connections and stuff like that. He probably knows about the Katarina angle of it all, but he doesn't know like who Reddington really is in all of this. That is like, you didn't just, Liz wasn't just some person he was passing this on to. This was Liz's not only legacy, but her inheritance. This was all meant for her. And you took away the one person in this world that Reddington did all this for. Decades was all done for Liz, and you took that person away because Marvin didn't know. And maybe if he ever finds out the truth, it's like, wait, I didn't realize I killed someone so important to you. So it's like, because Marvin's like, I try to stop you at every turn. You wouldn't give this thing up, because he, once again, he assumed that Reddington would get over. It's like, you've been death, betrayal. You've kind of been through this before. You would have moved on. And it's like, no, I wouldn't have, because this circumstances, despite the Kate situation, despite any other personal situations, I wonder, does Marvin think the person that died really was Katarina too? So maybe that's why he, probably even more, because once again, the only people who really, really know the truth was Liz at the end. I think everyone else still was under the impression that Layla Robbins' character, like I said, I don't think there was never any clarification for anyone else. I think the world in general is still under the impression that was Katarina. So once again, I'm getting so caught up in all of that, but yeah, it's just he didn't know all the facts about what Liz really truly meant. So now it's like, okay, we've already got people going through your places and stuff like that. And now on the plane ride there, I'm going to determine whether or not what ends up happening to you. And Marv's like, okay, but you're going to let me off this plane because I have a sniper right on Mirsay, and it's like, if you don't do what I say, she's gonna die. We're gonna blow up that beautiful mind of hers. And then Marvin's like, I didn't want it to come to this. And Reddington's like, you have a funny way of showing it, my guy. And so Marvin's like, let the best man win, because it's like, right, I learned everything from you, from your CDs. I've been your business partner. Raymond Reddington has been my life for so long. So let's see. And that's the thing. Sad thing is, You can't beat the OG. The fact of the matter is, sadly, Marvin, you're just going to be a carbon copy. It's going to take a lot more. Because in his own weird way, like, Marvin did this all out of love, and that's kind of what I thought. Like, that was my thought, that he got rid of Liz because it's like, right, she's terrible for business. She was never going to be the right person for it. So everything he did was for love, because he's like, right, because I care so much about you and this business. You're a part of my life. You are my life. So I try to do right by you because you made me into what I am. But it's like, you're not going to walk away from this alive. We'll see, but yeah. And also, Weech is still in pretty bad condition, too, so. It turns out everything else, even, like, framing Harold and stuff, like, all those pieces to the puzzle were all just for the purposes of trying to slow Reddington down every step of the way, trying to slow him down, and eventually giving him a road where he'll stop, but he kept pushing through over and over. Once again, thought Liz would be a death that he'd get over. Oh, it's been 2 years. Of course you've forgotten her. You've moved on. And yeah, you were a little rattled, but everything is like, no. I didn't even talk about how he ended up finding it out. I thought was kind of interesting, which is also a little cheating on the show's part, because it's a scene we never got. It's not a scene that actually happened in season 8. It's like, right, Liz had a headache, and it's like not until he saw Agent Park holding her head and dropping the glass that he remembers. It's like he remembers every detail of that day, but he forgot about that. Liz had a headache. You offered her some pills, and that's when you put the tracker on her. And it's like, and I love that Reddington was so pissed. It's like, you had the audacity to do it then and there. But not just then and there. That was right in front of me. You had the gall to do that in front of me, too. So, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Because first and foremost, Marvin knows how Reddington thinks. And so he's garnished up enough reputation, his own people, to kind of take this fight to Reddington. Because also, once again, Reddington hasn't fully dealt with the aftermath of killing Harris. Because all those people that are pissed knowing like, oh, Reddington has something to do with that, all Marvin has to do is confirm it, and it's like, right, work with them as those people who are going to want to take Reddington down for kind of screwing over their situation. So Marvin's put himself in a position where he's probably garnished a lot of allies that could easily help him stand against Reddington. So he's kind of on the right footing right now. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this plays out, especially with this whole situation with clearing Cooper's name and what Reddington's going to do in the end. There's I believe only 2 episodes left this season. I think it's only 22 episodes. I don't think it's going to be a 2-hour thing next week. I didn't see anything saying that, but they do that from time to time. So it's going to be interesting to see, is this going to be resolved? Is this going to carry over into next season? Because the show, if I'm not mistaken, was already renewed like a little while back for season 10. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.